Sonic Talk.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Sonic Talk. This is Wednesday, the 18th of May, episode 448, recording live on this very Wednesday. We're streaming to our usual place, which is sonicstate.com/live, and also want to welcome our YouTube live viewers as well. I'm trying to view both chat rooms, but it's quite difficult to do both while presenting a show, so I'll try and pay attention. But this is the show that's all to do with music technology, news in the music world, music productions, live sound, albums, artists, all that kind of stuff. Please stay tuned, and if you like what you hear and see, why not subscribe? You can subscribe to us on YouTube, also iTunes and all the usual places. So let's get started. Oh, well, before I go, also want to say thank you very much to iZotope, who are sponsoring the show. We've got a new prize today. You may have seen they've actually announced something new, so there will be something new to reflect that. So we will get onto that probably about halfway through the show, so stick around. Right, let's get to our guests. We'll start over here with Mr. David Spears of GeForce Software. Dave, in his synth cave, which is starting to look like one of those kind of nuclear families that has vinyl on the sofa, because all I see is plastic covering all of your beautiful instruments that you no doubt make in the study of your fabulous software instruments at GeForce Software. How's that for a seamless length?
It's quite good. Completely inaccurate, but quite good.
Well, that's all right. It's all about the feeling.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Is the sun shining in your neck of the woods? Has spring sprung and summer hit and all of those things, or has it started raining again?
It's raining. Hang on. Yeah, you can't really.
Well,
see
that looks like dazzling sort of sunlight because of that, but I'm guessing it isn't, because usually it's light in your room. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. So, but pleased to have you aboard, and we will no doubt be hearing from you in a short while. I'm just going to introduce the other panellists as well while we have them at our disposal. We'll say hi to Gaz Williams. Gaz Williams, of course, music technologist, producer, bass player, doing a lot of live gigs this year, and also we just posted the first of our little mini series, which is the cool Volca Vibes. I called it on a whim.
Yeah, I think that was a good name. It's brilliant, that is. I think it's such a cool thing. Everyone should watch that one, because it's about that magic MIDI cable. It's brilliant. It's really exciting. I think, clever MIDI cables. It was a bit of a revelation, wasn't it? It was very cool.
Yeah, this is the Retrokit. Before you wonder what we're talking about, it's the Retrokits. RK002, which is basically a standard MIDI cable with a tiny little microprocessor in one end.
Which microprocessor, Nick?
NXP something I've forgotten actually. But what it does is real-time convert incoming MIDI down the cable into something else. So in the case of the Volca sample, it means that you can play all the individual sounds off one keyboard without having 10 channelized pads or notes, and then also to chromatically play sounds and samples across a couple of octaves when you select them with the bottom octave. It's just, which it converts notes into the controller data that needs to be transmitted for the essentially the control of the tuning of the sample. It's just really clever, and I'm sure has loads of other possibilities. Anyway, guys, how are you?
Cool. I mean, I just got back after a 4-day, 3-date tour with Matuki. Absolutely ram-packed gigs, sweaty. Hot, sweaty, funky, amazing, brilliant, absolutely amazing, and playing all new areas as well, like a couple of gigs in London, and they were just amazing. So it was amazing because it just felt really like you were part of something really cool going on.
Well, that's always nice.
It was amazing. It was so good. We're all on a bit of a high about it because it was, and people were sort of singing the songs as well. So, it's kind of getting out there a little bit now. That's Matuki, by the way.
That's the album that you produced over the winter and the spring, right?
Yeah, and, that I will do something about that album at some point in the future. But it's funny. It's like from pre the album to after the album has a massive change in the way that band sounds, and it's sort of because the production enabled the thing to become a shape with almost, to be honest, with a narrative. Every song has an absolutely definable narrative across it, and now that's fed into the live stuff, and it's like dynamite now. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's
wow, congratulations.
Yes. Yeah, congratulations. No, I'm excited. Sorry to be excited, but it's working. It's like I'm kind of stewing up mad plans all the time, casting them out, and it's actually nice to see it sort of working, in some, it's a building thing.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, congratulations. And speaking of live bands, we have Mr. Richard Hilton here from the States, where he's up bright and early. Well, it's not too bright and early, but I want to say thank you for joining us. Rich, of course, plays with Chic live, travelling the world, playing the fabulous music of Nile Rodgers, where he also works with him in the studio. How are you, Rich?
I'm very well, thank you.
I am glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. So, anything exciting happening in your world you want to get off your chest before we move on?
Not. It's no.
Just a regular day at the office.
I've just returned from Maryland, where my son and I visited the place of his future employment.
Ah, okay.
And interestingly enough, this is one of the largest live sound reinforcement providers, apparently, in the world. And the guy who answered the door at lunch hour was the owner of the company, who then spent 15 minutes with us showing me around.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
it worked out really, really great. And Corey's going to start working there next week. So this was a trip to arrange a few things in the area for him, like living situation.
Brilliant. Another phase of life and all of those
As
things.
interesting as it gets for me this week, I'm afraid.
That's very important family stuff, though. That's great. We should say, before we do get started, that also we're going to be... Moogfest is this week in Durham, North Carolina. We were going to try and get over ourselves, but fortunately we've got a brilliant offer of help from Katie Kilobyte, who is going to go and do some video stuff on behalf of us. So you should be seeing a few things coming through from her. So if you see her there, say hi and help her if she needs any assistance. That would be brilliant. But thank you very much, Katie, and we'll look forward to seeing the stuff you get, and I hope you have a great trip. Right, so let's start with something. What was it? I better check and see if there's actually a button I need to press to actually have it start. Yeah, let's start with this. This is a guy called Code 80, who's programmed some three-dimensional space and created this kind of a 3D environment using a $10 PS3 iCam at 120 frames a second and create an environment with sort of various matching. So he's created this. This is his virtual DJ thing, and in itself, you might think, well, what's so special? But he's actually interacting with decks, and it's overlaying on the actual hardware. So he's playing music. He's also processing the music in real time. When he starts playing, you'll be able to see what's going on. So there we go. So now he's got animate. This is a bit sort of vomit inducing because it's not you moving, so it's a little bit disorientating. But the idea itself is just quite smart. The fact that, okay, this is for DJing, but I'm wondering, if this guy can do it after, he said, a couple of days with an iCam, and he was using Unity, which is a game sound programming engine, and this is what he came up with. It seems to me that there could be some pretty exciting things, because as we know, 3D and virtual immersion stuff is getting quite exciting. I don't know if you've tried Google Cardboard, but since I've got my new phone, which is a bit faster, it's actually really quite impressive. Even though a little bit blocky, you can get all of these. And I'm just thinking there's got to be some exciting and useful musical purposes for this kind of stuff. I thought I'd start with you, Dave. That was Rich, obviously, because in terms of sound design and that side of things, everybody's kind of almost waiting to know what they do, because people obviously design things for game environments, but for real-time interactive 3D, I'm guessing there could be a paradigm shift. If it's that easy to create something along those lines, then maybe we could be expecting to see some other things, and that's what makes it more interesting for me.
Yeah. I do know that it's going to be, I believe, this Christmas's big push, the whole VR thing. It's a lot of stuff going on. I think I can talk about one. Went to see Unders at... Actually, yeah, because Carl talked about it publicly. I went to see Unders at Roundhouse a month or so back. And they had VR cameras and stuff on stage. And by all accounts, actually, it's probably the perfect time for any budding VR people to get into it. And start hassling companies in terms of audio, because it's where they see the next explosion, and they really want it to be this Christmas's big push, but they're lacking content.
Left it a bit late for Christmas, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think there is this kind of, mad rush, and there seems to be quite a lot of funding, VC capital out there for whoever's going to become the latest, greatest, all singing, all dancing VR dude company. So yeah, it's quite intriguing. It's not something it's quite weird. It's a real generational thing, isn't it? My nipper is so into this. Like, she goes to Gamescom and all of those places all over the world. And every time she comes back, all she's talking about at the minute, apart from these kind of YouTube stars who play games and talk about it, which is quite funny because obviously I do the same on synths. But it's like poles apart,
right,
in terms of numbers. You know, it's,
yeah.
And she comes back and she's just ranting about it. And I think there's a VR set that's doing the rounds of kind of PC World and stuff over here. And she's like, you have to go, and we have to take Grandma, and we've got to take Mama. All of these people to whom it's a completely alien thing. She wants to immerse them in it. So for her generation, it's massively, massively exciting. And I'm, at the minute, looking on from the kind of sidelines going, this is kind of interesting. I'd like a room like this, but that I could play music to, and there'd be loads of pretend friends there stroking beards going, very good, very good.
Appreciative audience preset, please, yeah. Can you make that? Can we have some more women in the audience as well? And yeah, I know what you're saying. It is. I mean, it reminded me because I was involved in the kind of the curve of CD-ROMs. You know, we were developing games and coming up with ideas with CD-ROMs, and it feels like if you're in the right position, then that there are people constantly looking for content, looking for applications, looking for things like that. And if it's going to be relatively straightforward to be able to do that, then now's the time. I think you agree. I know, Rich, there's quite a lot more push in the States because there's more companies that are pushing. You know, Facebook are pushing it. VR. I mean, there's lots of areas in which this will go. I mean, presumably it's only a matter of time, or indeed they might have already been asked to kind of provide music or assets from, you know, the Nile Rodgers Creative Output Factory that will format for this kind of thing. But I mean, outside of that, is there any? Can you see any musical applications outside of the virtual DJ side of things that you think? I mean, I guess much of this stuff is we haven't seen it yet, so we don't know, right?
I'm not sure how. I mean, one of the more obvious things is to create some sort of interactive environment in which the participant affects which aspects of the music are playing back, if people want to provide stems towards that end. But beyond that, I can't see really with this. I have tried on a pair of virtual reality glasses that kind of blew my mind. It was pretty cool looking. And I absolutely believe Dave when he says that will be this year's Christmas push, and I'm all interested to see it come true now. I'm not sure. You know, I'm really not sure. I don't have a good answer for this, and I thought I didn't quite understand the point of what the guy who did the video was doing beyond some sort of three-dimensional virtual reality color organ.
Yeah, I think the point was that he'd created this and it was responding to his interactions with physical DJ equipment, and what he was doing was reflected in what was going on. So presumably that would mean it could control.
I never saw anything between the visual that specifically correlated to my perception of the music.
Right.
It was just a bunch of like whatever notes and G clefs or whatever it was flying down the screen out of the speaker. It's something emanating from a speaker in an animated setting.
Yeah.
But I didn't see like I said.
Didn't see the correlate, yeah. I guess it's the sort of thing that might kind of get the juices flowing if you operate in this world. I know, Gaz, I mean, what do you think? I think the idea of being able to kind of just go in and play your own music and then dial in an audience and have it surround you with VR while you're looking at your screen, while you're looking at your, you know, the instruments you're playing could be kind of cool. Like heighten the experience when you're actually just playing on your own in the bedroom.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it was making me think then, a few years from now then, we will have like superstars who are the people who have mastered this technology. You know, people who are like what DJs were in the past and a VJ combined into one, and in some way you are seeing them in some sort of performance, but VR way. Sorry, I'm talking a bit jumbled.
No, I understand what you mean.
So in the future, there'll be so many of these people, but they don't kind of exist yet. So it's quite funny as this moment in time, as a time capsule, where those because we've had like, you know, in point, go back in history and there wasn't a DJ and then there was a DJ. So what this thing will become, I don't know. But who will be these future stars? I'd like, to somehow link into the future with this,
I think so. Rich, you had a comment, I believe. I saw your hand raised off camera there.
Yeah, Gaz, I could introduce you to one of them, and he probably doesn't live that far from you.
Wow.
These guys exist. I mean, and not so much from the standpoint of virtual reality, because I just do not envision an audience of 5,000 people each wearing goggles watching the show. That's just not the way I see a live concert experience evolving. I've been wrong before, so if that's where we're going, okay.
Well, maybe a multicast where you're all sitting at home watching it from a central point.
Well, in terms of broadcast possibility, yeah. Recreating the immersive experience of being in the hall, seeing whomever, that I can understand. But there are guys doing unbelievably creative things with multiple source videos live as it goes on. And I think most of it is attached to EDM community stuff right now. Most of the most creative things I see being done seem to be attached to that. But this guy who has toured a little bit with us, and I'm not, bragging on I don't know what our stuff looks like, so I'm not here to brag on that. But I've seen his work, and he's absolutely brilliant. And there are guys out there who are really working on this.
Yeah. Well, the Microsoft, I think it's Holodeck that works with overlays, and it was enhanced reality. I mean, I could see that. I mean, I suppose the thing, what you were saying, Gaz, about artists who are going to be coming to the forefront, I mean, because as with many very popular kind of superstar artists, they create a persona, Lady Gaga, their Prince, their legions. And I guess this allows them to create an even more complete world and thing around themselves where they can still be, go to the shop and buy a pint of milk and then nobody will ever be interested. I wonder how much connection there's likely to be, whether you have an emotional or a physical connection with them. I mean, I guess we've seen it in Japan with the little anime characters who do the Vocaloid stuff, and they're massive. So, I mean, there obviously is something in the human condition that will embrace that. But, I mean, who knows?
I'm just thinking of Rich's comment about, I don't see this in a kind of gig, thousands of people sat there with the VR things. If you think about it, it's one step away from this, isn't it? Yeah. Just watching the gig through your phone. It's like the next step. It's really
fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true. Just put Google Cardboard on instead, so you just wear your phone in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I did hear a really funny one where a band had done a gig with, a headphone gig. And I won't say who it was, but they did it at a shopping centre, and it was quite funny because obviously it was all electronic with the exception of the singer and the people, the audience were filming it, and of course all they could hear. So when they upload their video to YouTube,
no music.
There's no music. There's just this slightly abstract, out of context vocal. Stuff,
well, they'll have to. Yeah, well, I suppose they have to stream it as well then. But yeah, that's a good point. I suppose you're right though. I mean, it's not that far away from having your phone kind of taped to your head because, like I say, Google Cardboard works that way. So I mean, there could well be a way. I suppose the problem would be latency. If you're watching it, you're going to have some really super fast stuff to be able to go translate what's happening real time on stage. I mean,
that's a good idea.
No, maybe not.
I take it all back. People strap on 3D goggles and sit there for 2 hours all the time. So what do I think?
Well, I suppose that's true.
Do this?
Yeah.
Pardon?
In the Bahamas, I think I'll just escape this and go into my VR world instead.
Right, exactly.
It's real.
It's all getting a bit William Gibson. But yeah, do check it out. If you want to find out a bit more about it, I think there's a guy, it's code80.com. That's the place to check it out. And he's got a blog, and these are the first experiments. I think he's kind of posting more stuff. But I spotted that one on Create Digital Music, another great find by Peter Kern there. So it's worth following what he does as well. Okie dokie. Right, what's the time? Oh, let's do an ad. We got something new this week because as well as announcing the winner of last week's competition from iZotope, we've got a new product and a new competition. This is the new VocalSynth. This is the vocoder and vocal processing. In fact, that is the iZotope fairy. I didn't know she could sing. So it's got 4 engines. Polyvoice, CompuVox, TalkBox, and a straight vocoder. Will do harmonies, octaving, all sorts of stuff. This seems to all work in real time. Obviously using some of iZotope's very clever real-time analysis. This is just out today, in fact. Obviously going for a kind of Daft Punk vibe on this, just to demonstrate. So there we have it. That's iZotope's brand new vocoder and vocal processing plugin, VocalSynth. So if you want to check that out, go to iZotope.com/VocalSynth. As usual, I don't know if they've got an unlimited demo on that, but you might want to check it out. They usually do with a lot of their products, so we'll see. And there's lots of other presets and lots of other things going on. So we shall now, let's get to the competition, because we had, from last week, we were with Ozone 7, which is another iZotope product, and we asked people to enter the competition, and we picked a winner from the supercomputer device that I've figured out how to do this. Anyway, the chap who won last week's competition, a copy of Ozone 7, is at 3 Square Gyratory. At 3 Square Gyratory, spelt, I imagine how you would imagine it. He tweeted RIP Tomita. We talked about Tomita last week. He showed there are no musical boundaries, and he tweeted the hashtag analog vibe and Ozone 7 to @SonicState, not iZotope Inc. So if you get in touch, 3 Square Gyratory, then the iZotope Fairy, who is currently in residence, will be able to deposit a copy in your inbox. And also, we have a new competition. Obviously, if you want to win VocalSynth, which is the brand new, hot off the press, out today, you want to tweet the hashtag SingIt, which is all one word, hashtag SingIt, the hashtag VocalSynth, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag SingIt, the hashtag VocalSynth, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's a Twitter competition, and we will announce the winner in next week's show. I imagine your missus must be very pleased, because we know that she's not a big fan of vocoders. Is it like a clowns thing? Do some people are really scared of clowns and have a completely sort of irrational fear of them? Is vocoders a thing like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, certainly with her, it's both clowns and vocoders. So
vocoding clown, that'd be a nightmare.
The imminent divorce or whatever, I will turn up at court wearing a clown suit and talking through a vocoder. No, as soon as I saw that, I thought, I must get that to wind her up.
Anyway, it looks like a pretty interesting technology, so do check it out, and we thank them very much for their sponsorship. Right, let's get on to. This was a bit terrifying. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but this was. Where is it? Oh. Wait 1 second. I need to bring the webpage up. This is the news. There's a chap called James Pinkenstone who, essentially, he's been subscribed to the Apple Music service, which is an interesting thing, which is the cloud-based thing. So it scans what you got on your hard drive and then gives you access to it via the internet. It's, on the face of it, it's a great idea. I don't know what it is, $10, $15 a month. I can't remember. But what he's actually, what he found was. I'll take this here. The story basically goes, he has a lot of music on his hard drives, 122 gigabytes of music, a lot of it being stuff that he writes himself, because he's a composer. The way it works is Apple scans your audio files, tries to find matches, and does find matches, and when it finds the match, it seems to delete the local copy and then give you access to it via the cloud, which may or may not be a good thing. It's something to do with the licensing. I think it must be somewhere. Anyway, this is kind of pretty much unreasonable. But what he actually found was that a lot of the tunes that were stuff that he'd worked on, Apple didn't find a very good match, and then didn't do the match, and then deleted it from his hard drive. So he's basically lost. He's got backups, but it just wiped out a whole bunch of his music using this service. So it's something you really want to watch out for. I mean, obviously the rights and wrongs of keeping offline copies are, huge. So I don't know what you think about this, Dave. Do you use Apple Music? I mean, I know a lot of people do. So have you had the same problem? Oh no.
Okay. It's really, really, really terrible. I signed up for that. It was iTunes Mac. I haven't moved over to Apple Music, probably largely because of this. I signed up to that iTunes Match thing. So, needless to say, all my iTunes library ended up in the cloud, which isn't the cloud, is it, people? And then all the WAVs and AIFs got converted. And now when I listen to stuff, so what I would do is I'd finish a track, and when I'd finished it, I would render out an eighth, I would throw it in iTunes, and that would become a kind of definitive working version. And also at certain stages during the production, if I'd found like vocals, a set of backing vocals that worked extremely well, I'd render those out, put those into my iTunes library, and that sometimes I'd re-import those in to save, to basically condense several tracks down to 2 if the vibe was right. Now, of course, when I open those projects in Logic, because they've been converted to AACs, the eighth no longer exists.
Whoa.
So it goes, can't find that. So, yeah, this is really, it's a massive, massive issue for idiots like me who've allowed themselves to be duped into thinking that technology was the answer when really papyrus is the only way. No, it's bad. It's really bad.
I don't think anybody knows. That's the thing. I mean, I don't think this knowledge is common. That's the problem.
It might.
I didn't really lie. Sorry. Yeah, go.
It just might make a resurgence in the value of CDs. People might start thinking, "Hang on a minute, I want to lock my music down physically again."
Well, particularly as this person had issues with, and I've got this, I've got like alternate versions of tracks that are still called, like with unders, say for example, I may have 6 versions of a track, but they'll be called, something 01, something 02. But it's made this arbitrary decision to kind of go, okay, so they're all the same.
Does it look outside of the place where those are, because if you've got like a project folder and then you import it into iTunes, does it actually reach outside of the iTunes library?
No, it's only what's in the library. But the problem I've got is that, some of these projects date back. Actually, and what it's done with me is raised another issue. Everyone knows how much I love Solemnity, and I think Melodyne is amazing. But with the latest Melodyne 4, you have to surrender a previous Melodyne license. So for people like me who've got, when I have to make a big jump, I buy a whole new system and a whole new computer, which is an absurd expense, really, in order to preserve old stuff on old machines. Well, now I don't have the license to that, so I've now got loads of projects that use Melodyne 2 that just don't function. Similar. So it's a really scary, both of these things put together. I'm just like, oh, wait for it. My photos are going to vanish next. 25 years of digital photos are just going to disappear, and I'm just going to have to suck it. Yeah, right. Physical copies, man.
I know, Rich, you're probably sitting there thinking, you fools. I mean, but no. Yes, but I mean, I think the thing that's so terrifying about this is who knew that this was part of the process. I mean, it's just not documented as far as we understand, clearly anyway.
Well, I will tell you what I knew. When iTunes Match showed up, I knew it wasn't for me because I have too much proprietary material in my various music libraries for somebody else to have any kind of access to it whatsoever. And when Apple Music showed up, I said, no thanks. Now, I'm the last guy usually to plant a flag in a technology and say I'm staying here. And it's not because I want to do that this took place, but at both turns with the iTunes Match thing and with the appearance of Apple's music service, it didn't appeal to me as an idea, and I just said no. And I also, as I say, it relates to partially the fact that because we're professionals in this business, we have quite often partially completed, incomplete, or embryonic work on those libraries. Yeah, and it's not like you don't necessarily throw open your underwear drawer when the guest walks into the house the first time, and I don't really, I didn't really want access to that. So I'm not thinking anybody's a fool because everybody makes their own decisions at those moments, and they're all reasonable decisions. They're all defensible, and I'm sure there are people who can get on here and talk about how great their experience has been with Apple's music, but I didn't need it.
No,
so right. I didn't get it. And it's I don't really tend to listen to broadcast material, unlike except of course for our podcasts. outside of the realm of like if I launch Apple's iTunes player for some reason, I'm generally launching it to listen to something.
Yeah.
Even if I'm looking around for something, it's probably something in my library. I'm not putting on somebody's radio station usually. I don't know if that makes me unusual or what. But
no, I don't. I mean, I use it purely, mostly for making CDs. You know, if I need to burn a CD, I'll just use it to burn a CD and I'll import a track, you know, and whatever. I know, Gaz, have you been burned by this? Because you use iTunes for previewing your mixes. I've seen you do it.
No. Well, I make this... I do a lot of kind of very manual backupping sort of, you know... I've got some automatic stuff, but I do some manual backupping, which... so I'm always duplicating it once a month, sort of onto somewhere else. So I think I haven't experienced it.
Safe.
I think so, yeah. But at the same time, it's really worrying, though. It is a really worrying thing, and it is also that Apple my way or the highway sort of attitude a little bit. You know, it's just like, this is how we do it.
Well,
and, you know,
yeah.
You know, they put it, didn't they, in the disclaimer about it, that we all click and agree.
The
you know,
terms,
the thing that,
yeah.
You know, the terms that we all agree to. You know, so
15 pages long. Yeah.
We are the suckers because we didn't read the terms. You know, but we are like Gannett, so aren't we? You know, in the modern technological age of just, you know, everything free content, give it to me. You know, it's just that is sort of a symptom of the modern age, which actually, coming back to CDs and just little objects and, you know, having something that you spend a bit of time with as a physical thing, you have much more relationship with it. You know, digital download stuff, you never have any tactile relationship with either. So I think,
there's that. But once we all know that when we agree to something like iTunes Match, where all of your files that are existent in their existing library then become accessible to you through that library. None of us, after the moment we've agreed to that, is surprised that when we don't have a decent Wi-Fi or we're running up our LTE connections or whatever, that it's going to either cost you money running up LTE or you're not going to be able to get at it when you're not by a network. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
No, but I didn't realize that was necessarily the case, because the point was that it was... You know, it was like almost like one of those sort of knife amnesties where you just kind of go, here are all my knives. I agree, you know, maybe some of them are a bit long and they shouldn't be out in public. You know, maybe some of these tunes are, you know, I've bought some of them I might have downloaded. But, you know, if I hand it all over, then we do a deal and the whole thing, you can handle it all and I'll get copies of what you think I've got. I don't recall part of that agreement appearing to be, and we'll just delete it all when we're done. But it must have been some part of the strategy that they did with all of the labels, right?
It was pitched as a convenience feature that would allow you to reclaim space on your mobile device.
Right. Ah, okay.
That was part of the pitch from day one on iTunes.
Storage is so expensive these days, right? Yeah.
Well, but you know.
Right. Okay. I guess I didn't get into it, but yeah. No.
I seriously thought it would differentiate between AACs, MP3s, and WAVs and APEs. I thought, actually, if that's they're large, they're quite large data files.
Yeah.
So I thought it'll leave those intact, and because we can convert within iTunes. You know, we can convert to MP3, we can convert to AAC and whatnot. The fact that we choose not to do that, I would have thought that would have kind of ring-fenced those.
Yeah.
That was my assumption, albeit incorrectly.
Well, anyway, so watch out. If you're thinking about it or you're not sure, make sure you got backups before you get too into that, because that's a pretty terrifying story. Anyway, let's crack on with what time is it now? We should probably get onto the Radiohead album, which is has just come out. This is the Moonshake. Sorry.
Hooray!
Yeah, we have other topics, but I figured we'd get here because this might prove... This is Moonshake Pool, just come out. I'm not going to play anything because I know I'm just going to get totally busted. This has just come out. They've done their usual thing of kind of sort of non-promotion, not taking the usual channels, or at least it looks like that way, and it's still got #1 album in the UK and #3 in the US. And I bought it the other day, and it sounds very lush and lovely. It's kind of quite ambient by nature, and there are definitely quite a lot of synthy textures in there and what have you. I know, Gaz, you were keen to talk about this. You're a big fan, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they have definitely been the band who have been the most, whatever it was that like Pink Floyd were in the 1970s after Dark Side of the Moon. Radiohead have occupied that slot in sort of rock circles. So, they are the zeitgeist-defining rock band in many ways. The last album, The King of Limbs, was, it's a really good album, but it doesn't really give you what you want from it. But this one is just giving you so much. It's an absolutely beautiful album, but the orchestration of it, of band and orchestral instruments, are so interwoven together so beautifully. It's not like, it's a rock band playing and there's strings going along with it. It's a much more sophisticated, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think that a lot of people struggle with Tom York's voice, and it is a gloomy kind of place they take you to. That is their thing. It is sort of it's quite serious. I mean, the last song, True Love Waits, is so heartbreaking. It's so sad. Oh my goodness. It's a really powerful piece of music. And that's an old tune, actually. And that's probably the most conventional song on the album. Even still, its orchestration is amazing on it. But that's back from, I think, a song from the Bends era that they brought back.
I don't know. There has been talk that this has been, it's not necessarily a new set of songs, but a revisiting of some that have been sort of in the back, working over time. So I suppose
what I would say is that every song is very detailed, and I think that's just amazing. It's and it's got an inviting mix. However it's been mixed and mastered is very inviting. It's not I think maybe King of Limbs was a little bit more abrasive, I think, perhaps, but this one is very warm.
Well, they've gone for the just go here. You can get as well as vinyl and various other things. You can download it in MP3, 16-bit or 24-bit WAV. So they've gone for that. You probably can't read that. The contrast isn't there. So they've given it. They've obviously making sure you get the full quality, which I think is a good thing. I mean, I guess. That's a lot of data if everybody downloads 24-bit versions of their album. I mean, God knows how many they sell. I mean, because they're one of the few bands that still sell a lot of stuff. Has it made it? I mean, it's got to number 3 in the US. I mean, it seems astonishing to me, Rich, because to me, they seem quite niche and sort of left of centre or off centre at least. And, to achieve that is pretty astonishing. Have they got high profile there? I mean, is there a lot of press going on? I mean, it just doesn't seem to be any of it. It's all word of mouth, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, first of all, I know painfully little about Radiohead or this topic, and I have not heard the record.
Okay.
So everything you say, I would assume is true, but they're not very well known right here. So, but I have friends for 20 years who have been raving about them as their favorite band and stuff like that. So they are very, very revered and loved, and that much I have observed. But I've just never actually sat down with the music, so I don't have anything really pithy to say about it.
No, okay, well, that's fair. I mean, one thing I would say, there's a local guy, drummer, called Clive Deemer, who lives in Bath.
Hooray!
I've known him for years and years and years. He played with Portishead, and he used to play in jazz bands when I was doing kind of club nights, and used to do the sound for him a lot, as with all of those guys, those musicians. He's just got the gig as the drummer for the Radiohead World Tour. So
amazing.
If he ever gets to hear this, congratulations, Clive. He's a very tall man. Not that does anything, but he's a great drummer, so that'll be a fantastic gig, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Dave, is there, which takes me into the touring side of things. I mean, this sounds like, I guess touring, as you tour more and more and more, you got more and more albums out, it gets harder and harder to kind of put all the tech together for a live show like this, because you've basically got to grab it. They got into synths quite a lot recently, didn't Tom York buy a big modular system, and also Johnny Greenwood? I mean, they're all kind of getting very electronic, even though there's a lot of orchestral stuff on this album and acoustic stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny's had the... It sounds like I know him, don't I? No, I don't really. They're from round here, obviously, and we know... It's a shame, actually, because I was going to I tried to get Andy on here, because Andy's very well connected with them.
Andy Shillito, he's the sound engineer that we've had quite a lot live.
Yeah, he's very good friends with their front of house engineer and has known all of them. I think they had an office in Reading and stuff for a while. In fact, they've got a studio near Oxford, And it's brilliant because the studio was originally run by their management, but they weren't managing them. They were just running a studio, and they weren't making any money out of this studio at all. You know, it was just like a kind of studio that was losing the money. So the two guys who ran the studio went, tell you what, we should get into management. And the first band they signed were Radiohead, and the second band they signed was Supergrass.
Oh, so that probably did a lot better, right? Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I've been talking to the keyboard tech recently with, you know, he's obviously setting stuff up to go out live, and in fact Andy was put on a tour that the Radiohead front of house engineer was supposed to do, but he couldn't do it, so he handed it to Andy instead. Other than that, I can't really say very much at all, because
no, I suppose not.
They have spies everywhere, and if you say anything out of order, which I probably
so
have
are they very secretive then? I mean, or I can't even say if they are. I mean, it's always, I always find it quite curious why bands are secretive to a degree. I mean, about, you know, mundane stuff, you know, just kind of nuts and bolts things.
I don't know. Maybe they may have relaxed that over the years. I had a run-in. I had an issue with them years and years ago. I said something in a magazine that I didn't realise I wasn't really supposed to say, and it was around the time of that name and climb no brand and whatnot, so it became an issue that it looked like they were probably endorsing stuff. I have to say this, and I'm allowed to say this actually, is that when we did it, I kind of navigated that, because it was a very delicate path, but I was used to it because at the time, obviously, Underworld were doing the same kind of thing, no interviews, don't talk to anyone, and obviously they've relaxed over the years, and I was kind of used to that etiquette. I think anyone who's worked with a major band is used to it, but some are slightly more difficult than others. Anyway, I'd negotiated it, my way through that, and then they were due to go out on another tour, and they called saying, we hear you've got an update to the M-Tron, almost ready to go. Is there any chance we could have a copy in order to use it live, because we've heard it does this and it does that? And that was obviously the M-Tron Pro in beta form, and I just thought, yeah, let's let them have it.
For large, jeez.
Because after all, what could possibly go wrong? Wow. You know. And that was really quite a scary. In fact, I said to the tech at the time, "Yeah, I'll do this for fun, but you have to go and ask them whether I can say we're so confident about this being robust, we're lending you a beta copy." And he came back about 10 minutes later and went, "Yeah, they said it's all right." So that sorted all that out. But yeah, no, I don't really talk about anything else I know other than that.
Well, that's fair enough. The album, you know, I mean, it's just gone absolutely huge, and it's, you know, as everything seems to. I mean, even when they were the first to do that kind of pay what you like. Was it In Rainbows that they did? And it turned out that, you know, you could pay next to nothing or as much as you like, which actually is kind of the way that Bandcamp works, incidentally, which I think maybe became more widely adopted as that. And it's an interesting thing, because people who value your stuff will do it, and it allows for a bit of moral decision making rather than just stealing the stuff, I suppose, which is not a bad thing, and brave of them, but probably only something they could pull off because they know they were going to sell several 100,000 at reasonable cost, and the rest, you know, could be done down to promotion, which is probably cheaper than promotion to give away a few 100,000 albums as well. I don't know how that would work, but innovative in many ways, and it is well worth checking out, I would say. Produced by Neil Godrich, who's done a lot of their stuff, right?
Nigel
Godrich, yes.
Yeah, brilliant producer, absolutely brilliant. He produced my favourite Beck album as well, Mutations. That's a superb album. Great producer. I think, yeah, you know, he's like the George Martin to the Beatles, isn't he? With Radiohead. I mean, I think maybe the role of a producer with a band like Radiohead also takes on a different dimension. When you hear how those tunes, it's very difficult to kind of hear it as a band, because it's the parts are so not defined. Like, okay, there's one guitarist, there's the other guitarist, there's the bass player. The arrangements, sometimes you can hear bits of guitar, sometimes you can hear bits of bass, sometimes you hear all sorts of stuff. So that whole kind of dynamic of it being a band music, yet it does come through. It definitely isn't solo work. It does feel like band music as well. So, you know, so maybe the role Nigel Godrich has as a producer is able to somehow navigate that, which because all the band members get a writing credit, don't they? You know, all the music is written by Radiohead, and I think the words Tom York. So it's a very democratic unit. So wow, amazing. I listened to it again today. I went for a walk, the duration of the album, and it just took me places. I just thought, wow, this is what we want. I love it. It's prog for now. You know, it really is.
It's brilliant. I will say one thing. I have when we do stuff, I generally have a picture or a sound in my head of like if we make something and it makes that sound, then it's been right. It's been successful in my head. And I've had this sound, a particular sound in my head for ages about something I've been saying to everyone here. We need to do this because it'll do this. And obviously I can't describe the sound in my head, and I won't say what track it is, but literally within the first 5 seconds of one track, it's like, that's the sound that was in my head. That was quite a weird moment. That sound.
It reminds me very much of the kind of Eno approach to production. There's lots of wash and ebb and flow in it, from what I've heard. I haven't listened to it in detail, but it sort of sounds quite. The transitions are, you know, you don't get like chorus, verse. You know, it's very ethereal in many ways. The way it sort of ebbs and flows, which is a kind of
and the Burn the Witch thing as well, Bristol, wouldn't it? The animation.
Yes,
Bristol.
The Trumpton thing.
In fact,
what an amazing
here
video.
we go. We can make a connection here. So your Clive Deamer plays with Gabriel, doesn't he?
I'm not sure. He does actually.
Didn't he?
Maybe I don't think so.
Okay.
Don't think so.
Because the Radiohead front of house guy used to work or has worked with Gabriel.
Oh, well, there we go.
That's what I was thinking. Anyway, that's obviously completely off the topic.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Close. All right, well, we can now rewind and go back to this other time. Now, imagine this, having this to play with.
I play guitar. I've been playing guitar since I've been 12 years old. It's all very mathematical, all rhythmic. Maybe that's why I kind of drifted.
This is Aaron Hosman.
Math, because I think I started with the music first. Behind me is actually an array of 36 speakers. More technical term are noise sources, and each of these horns that you're seeing is able to produce certain frequency ranges, sort of like a big band. The majority of the noise for the Orion test is we're testing for the launch pad noise, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The speaker right behind me, it would take about maybe 10,000 of those speakers at home to just equal the power coming out of this monstrous 25 hertz speaker here. Yeah, my first thing out of high school was to be a math teacher, and then I would be an architect.
Basically, I'll take a picture of this that I've got on the web. This is the room at NASA where they make the noise that rockets make, so that they can test the equipment to see if it falls to pieces when it's submitted to 163 decibels with 27 hertz that those subs are capable of. And that guy, Aaron Hosman, is an acoustic engineer, musician, and he gets to play with this thing. And it just seems like, what a fantastic concept. I mean, I know, Gaz, you're really into the sound of rooms and stuff.
It
just blows me away. I mean, you couldn't be anywhere near it because it would just kill you.
But how? I mean, presumably you've got volume control on it.
Well, gosh, yeah, I don't know. I hate to think what sort of amps that. What are they? Hold on, these are nitrogen-driven horns. I don't know what the hell that means, but I like the sound of it because you use liquid nitrogen in rocket fuel as well. So maybe it's just, I don't know. It's crazy space though.
Wow, yeah. I mean,
100,000 cubic feet.
Are there any examples of it being used for anything musical then?
Yes. Let me see if I've got this one.
Oh.
This is him playing the guitar in it. I don't think he's using the speakers there. I think he's just using the acoustic space. But it sounds like it's quite a lot of fun. And they are obviously, to see NASA kind of allowing this sort of slightly flippant use of their multi-million dollar facility is quite heartwarming in a way.
Well,
Rich, I know you're a big fan of acoustic spaces. Have you been to this place? I don't know if it's you're even allowed in. I'd imagine not, but.
well, this is new, and it's in Sandusky, Ohio, which also happens to contain one of the greatest amusement parks in the world with some of the largest roller coasters in the world. So now we have one more reason to go to Sandusky, Ohio.
They put it on the city limits badge, home of the world's largest acoustic space and roller coasters.
And roller coaster. They got a roller coaster with something like a 300-foot drop there at almost 90 degrees. But this thing looks like an homage to Paul Klipsch to me. I don't know how much you're familiar with the development of various speaker designs, but Paul Klipsch was an early and ardent advocate of horn-loaded driver designs for producing high sound pressure levels with very little acoustical input. And so given that this room was purpose designed to create unbelievably high sound pressure levels that don't necessarily have to be musically coherent, and in fact, they're basically testing with noise sources. When he says a noise source, they're trying to simulate the sound of a rocket taking off, and they're saying that the new one that's supposed to go to Mars is considerably
20%
bigger
louder,
and louder than the Saturn V was. So this thing is actually specifically designed to create enormous sound pressure levels with whatever power you give it at as wide a frequency spectrum as possible, but with no specific coherence. It's like sort of the opposite of a line array, if you know what I mean. In other words, there's no coherence designed into it or implied by the function.
Doesn't that look slightly stereo? There's a left and a right there, sort of mirror.
No, I understand. They've made some choices about making it symmetrical in the room and all that, but quite honestly, I prefer a cathedral probably for any of that. But I mean, it's fun that you can make it. It's got all that ambience to it and all this.
Imagine.
I'd love to see it.
Imagine. It's like kick, snare. Just like, wow, blow you across the room. I don't know, Dave. I suspect. I mean, this would be a sound designer's dream, wouldn't it? It's. I mean, imagine an impulse response from there would be something that would be nicely sought after.
Yeah, I love this guy. I thought he was really very funny. I don't know what to say other than I thought perhaps the ultimate torture would be to take somebody from this environment and then put them into an anechoic chamber and then take them out of an anechoic chamber and then put them back in this environment. Blast them with noise and then back in the... And then if you did that with 3D or virtual reality goggles on, I reckon the chances of losing your sanity would just be imminent.
Well, that's a terrifying thought. Well, Wild Blazer in the chat room says stereo 323 hertz. Yeah, that would be kind of. Imagine you get that going on. That would wobble your guts, wouldn't it? Well, it's the theta waves, isn't it? Because you have to create you create two tones. This is the theory for certainly audio warfare was one of them, where you take two sine tones that will then beat at a lower frequency than is possible, and that will create the theta wave. And the theta wave is the thing that just kind of makes you fall to pieces. I don't think this goes that low, but I'd imagine if you were listening to the kind of rocket launch in there at full volume, it wouldn't do you very good. I'm really intrigued by these mic stands. These mic stands are pretty awesome. Look at them. They're huge. They've got to be specialist gear right there. I wonder if you can get those from BH Photo. Wouldn't be surprised.
You probably can.
To stand up to the sound pressure.
Yeah. I wonder if they sort of do. I wonder if they do this when they just start to kind of like bend. They're like kind of fishing rods or something. That would be pretty mental. I
had to record a load of Formula One stuff years ago. That was pretty.
Well, I'd monitor it on headphones as well to make sure it wasn't clipping. Oh.
Yeah, which was just hilarious, really, on a little SQN mixer. It's just red. But that pressure feeling, particularly on the grid, where we did a couple of test runs at Williams, actually, just so I could get a handle on what was needed and whatnot, and did some around there. They had a test track there. That was pretty cool. And then it was off to, I think it might have been Silverstone, I forget, where I was literally just kind of stood right by the grid when they all kicked off. And nothing really prepares you for that. Your body just vibrates, which is what I loved about the spin-off to this, wasn't it, with the old Saturn V commentator. What was his name? Walter Cronkite.
Oh, well, he said, he was terrified, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's quite Yeah.
It's funny. There's that. I mean, because there's also. I used to live at the top of a hill, and or quite a steep, almost cliff. My house was up there, and at the bottom was the railway station. And every couple of months, you'd get the Pullman carriages and the steam train, which is part of. I think it was part of the. One of it's like anyway, it was a big steam train, and it'd go past, and it would often happen early on a Saturday morning when I was probably still in bed. I was a lot younger then, so I didn't get up early, and you could feel the pressure waves coming up the valley from the piston in the engine, because obviously it's a single stroke, so the thump is kind of 1 hertz or lower even, and you get this kind of you just feel this thing. So imagine capturing that level of low end must be quite challenging. I wonder what sort of mics they're using there to measure it.
This stuff, the Apollo 440 guys, do you remember them when talking about dub and all that kind of stuff? I forget what the other hits were. But they came around and they had this, I was recording stuff with them, and they had this military box that they claimed would kind of send the kick drum down to 15 hertz, which is allegedly the mythical brown note. We tried everything we could, but it wouldn't. It just wasn't happening. Like the interns, just sit in front of the speakers there, right? Have you cracked yourself? No. Okay.
Oh, you devils! Well, there was one other topic, but I suspect it's probably a little bit too large to cover. But we will maybe come back to that next week if that's possible. I think next week, hopefully, the week after. I think I'm going to record. Is it next week? No, next week I think Gert Bevin is going to be coming on, who's the guy behind the Model 15 Moog app and also various other things. So he's going to be a guest. I think he'll be joining us from the Moog factory, because obviously we've got the Moog Fest happening from tomorrow onwards. Just want to say again, we have Katie Kilobyte there, who's going to be getting some video stuff and maybe posting some things from live blog and what have you. So do stay tuned. We'll probably be running a blog tomorrow, so I'm hoping to make it nice and easy just for various things to show up there if you want to get a sense of what's going on. It's an embarrassment of riches. There's lots and lots of good stuff in there. Tara Bush is playing there with Gary Newman and various other people. Tara's in fact, Tara's who introduced us, isn't she? That's right. Yeah, we were introduced through Tara. But I think we'll probably knock it on the head for today. That feels like a good time to stop. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining us. Thank you to our YouTube live viewers. I think we nearly broke 300 today, which is a nice number to get. So thank you everybody in the YouTube stream. Thank you also everybody in sonicstate.com/live. I've got another fulsome chat room. Thank you to everybody there. And before we go, we should remind you about the competition if you want to win the brand new iZotope VocalSynth plugin. Tweet the hashtag SingIt and the hashtag VocalSynth, all one word, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag SingIt and the hashtag VocalSynth to @SonicState and iZotope Inc. So it just remains for me to say subscribe, obviously, if you've enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel or wherever it is that you get this feed from. That would be much appreciated. And say goodbye to our guests. I want to say, Rich, thank you very much for joining us. You said you're around for a little bit now, before you go on tour. Are you all up to speed, or do you have to get into rehearsals and do production stuff for that, or is it all kind of pretty much, ready to rock?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's all ready to rock. And if it were up to me, that's probably how we go. No, the truth is there's a bunch of festivals coming up this summer that we're going to do. One of them's outside of London at I think Fulham Palace maybe or something. And the other one is here in New York on the east end of Long Island like last year. And usually attendant with these festivals is us, Chic, playing as sort of a house band thing with various other artists. And all of that requires a lot of prep.
Yeah.
So I expect that the time that's actually already begun, and I've got song folders for certain artists who I know we're going to be working with, but I'm sort of waiting for the rest of the information flow to gather before we go forward with the rest of that. But so to that extent, your answer to your question is yes, but as far as getting together with the other members of Chic and rehearsing the songs we typically play in the show, that's not likely to happen.
Right. No, fair enough. Congratulations on the way, by the way, for saying Fulham and not Fulham, which is a very easy thing to do because of the pronunciation of the way that Americans pronounce words. So I'm very impressed, Rich. You're honorary Brit almost there.
Thank you.
Anyway, have a great week, and hopefully we will speak to you again soon. I should say that next week is a show, and then there won't be a live show the week after because I'm on holiday, so for a week, so I won't be around. Anyway, Dave Spears, thank you for joining us too. Have you got anything new out? Did I see you've got some sort of special offer on something you'd like to plug?
Yeah.
It's in lieu of a fee.
Yeah, we're doing 50% off Oddity 2 for a couple of weeks, basically till the end of the month. We've been talking about doing it for ages and been putting it off, and then we kind of went, come on, let's do it. And I did a vid on the Jupiter 8, another one of those mad walkthrough things. But yes, I do too want to congratulate Rich on Fulham. If you're really posh in London, it's known as Flam. Like Streatham is known as St Wretham. And Battersea is Battersia.
Battersea.
Oh my gosh. I better take some notes. Hang on.
No, don't.
Yeah, a nice one, Dave. So people just check out geforcesoftware.com for all the available offers and deals, and go and spend loads of money with you and do all of those things, and so you can have a holiday as well, eh?
Yeah, or buy another synth.
Yes.
I bought that Moog thing. I did buy that Moog app. Wow. I mean, that's like... I watched a little bit of last week. Was it last week when you talked about it? I mean, that really is an iOS game changer. In fact, that makes some AU and VST stuff look kind of arcane as a format, you know?
Yeah.
I think the graphics are amazing. So, yeah, next week will be interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, thank you very much, Dave. Also, Gaz Williams there, gazwilliams.me, if you want to check out all Gaz things. I'm guessing you're right in the zone for gigs, aren't you?
That's woefully out of date, the website. But, yes, lots of stuff going on, lots of festivals going on now, and lots of time balancing things going on as well. Just hoping to... Just amazing gigs are coming in, and they're not quite clashing. It's coming in because I'm playing with 4 different bands across the summer, so it's 5 different bands across the summer, and yeah, and it's all good stuff as well. So it's all stuff that I think is really worth doing. Like Glastonbury, I've got 6 gigs in Glastonbury now.
Let's pray for no rain.
Oh, God, my word. It's going to be hard work as it goes. If it rains, oh, my goodness. So, yeah, that's going to be hard work. I got that to dread. But still, it's going to be fun. And just, yeah, a whole bunch of other things as well. Some really mad stuff coming up. So I'm... going
to be busy.
Well, I'm putting a lot of time into the Electron Analog 4.
Because you're playing that from your MIDI bass, right?
Yeah, and that's an experience as well, because that is actually a very perfect match, the Analog 4 for the MIDI bass, because you've got 4 separate synthesizer, mono synths, one for each string, and it just allows for an incredibly deep amount of programming, because you've got 5 velocity locations, so there's such a lot of you can do with velocity in your playing, so you can send it to 5 different places, and that's per string as well. So
good grief.
It's really interesting. But the best thing I've discovered now, and I think I've found the killer feature, is the ability of the Analog 4 to patch change in an instant.
Oh, instantly, yeah.
Where this works beautifully well is that on the floorboard that I've got here with patch changes. When you play a note, when you patch change it, the voices will, any continuing voices will overlap. So, you can leave some notes playing, change patch, and the notes decay releases will still be on.
That's useful.
And then so you can do fantastic LFO drops and all sorts of that really exciting stuff. It's good.
I can imagine you're busy. I've got the Dominion 1 which arrived, so I've been trying to incorporate that into my live set because I'm playing at Cymru Beats on the 18th of June, as I will plug again. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go, although I now have a challenge to fit 2 37-note keyboards on a 1 meter by 600 table, because that's my limit. That's the creative limitation I've got. So I'm probably just going to create some sort of monstrous stand. Anyway, thank you for everybody for joining us. It's been great fun as ever. We will see you all out the other side, and that's it for Sonic Talk 448. Thank you very much. See you next time.